Well, hello, I'm Tony and welcome to my wood shop. Today we have a pretty exciting project. I have a good friend who has an antique piece of furniture they really love and the foot broke. So they sent me the actual broken foot. It's got some splits down the middle, a lot of nails and glue on it where people try to fix it over the years. Looks like a standard end grain. So I think the first thing we need to do is measure it up, see what piece of wood we have out there, and then again figure out the best way to turn that interesting little offset tenon that it mounts into. So first, let's go see what wood we have. So whenever I get something like this in and someone's asking me to replicate something that's already there, obviously the easiest kind of project in the world, but we got to start out by getting a few measurements before we hit the wood pile, I guess. So I'll zero out my mic here and we'll see what we got. Looks like at the widest point where the tenon is here, we're under 2 inches, so 1.97, 1.969, somewhere around there. It tapers down to 1/8 at the round spot, and then the foot itself is just under 3/4 of an inch, so 0.726. So we've got 2 inches in the max is the kind of wood we're looking for. And we can get something with a taper in it without much trouble. Let's go ahead and see how long it is here. So we pull it in. It's only 4.25, a little less than 4.25 inches, so probably leaving us room on both ends for this tenon. I think I'd be happy with a 4.75 to a 5-inch piece of wood. So let's look for a 2x5 inch long piece here and see what we have. Can't really tell what it is. This could be oak or chestnut. It's got so much finish on it, it's really tough to tell exactly what we're looking at. But we can stain it this dark walnut color without any problem, I'm pretty sure. So I wouldn't want to use a giant block of walnut. I do have this piece of cherry, however, and looking at that, you know, we're well within, we're 2.5 inches that direction. I can go take that over to the bandsaw and make us a 2.5 by 2.5 inch turning square to work with, and we have plenty of length here, even though there's some punky here. That'll all turn away for what we're looking for, that rotten core. Yeah, this piece is over 8.5 inches long. So what I think I'll do is I'll run over to the bandsaw and go ahead and hack us up a little piece here, and then we'll mount that up, go ahead and trim it down to 5.5 inches, mount it up between centers, and let's get to turning. All right, well, I got it cut down, and unfortunately the camera stopped, so I don't know what I'm doing wrong with the camera these days. But we got it cut down to 2.5 inches square roughly. I'm gonna go over there now and hack off 5 pieces, 5.5 inches right here. It's square enough for us to get it on there and turn around, so we're ready to go. All right, I tend personally to like to use a little center finder here whenever I'm marking up a spindle blank. These are really inexpensive little guy off of Amazon. I'm sure that all of our normal stores have them as well. And once we get it all lined up in there, we know that we're gonna just be between those spots, so I'll do both ends. For this, I'm just gonna use a regular live tailstock center and a 4-spur drive on the other end. And we should be good to go to get that all rounded up. What we need to do is line up one little center here. I'm actually going to go with the, yeah, we're going to go with the least flat side on here and the flatter side over on this end. And the reason I chose to do that is I have to hand cut a tenon on the other side. We'll use the bandsaw for most of that project. But I still want to have easy access. And I want the flattest spot up here for my actual toe. So we got it lined up. We're going to start this off with just a spindle roughing gouge, although we could probably hit it with a skew just as easily. But I think a spindle roughing gouge would be the easiest path for us. So that's 1220 RPM. That's where I'll be spinning this up to start. Now, one of the things about spindle turnings like this, first thing we want to do is just get it round. We want to get our maximum diameter we can from our square section in round before we move on to doing the measurements for the piece we're replicating. I have a 2-inch spindle roughing gouge, mask and face shield on it. Wasn't particularly fond of how that was sounding, but we're rounder, we're closer. So I might go ahead and get the skew out now. Got all the corners knocked off. So my personal preference on a skew is this Dynamic. It's a Henry Taylor tool, and this specific one is the Richard Raffin. It's old school, but I think you can see it in there. Richard Raffin signature skew. It's a radius top part there. So this anchor, put your bevel up there. Looks a lot easier when Kirk here is doing it. We'll just stop to take a look at the work we're doing so far. Still feel I've got lots of corners there, but you can see what a beautiful cut that skew takes. So obviously we want to get through this the center pith here. We still have plenty of room. We got that bit of round on this end, so we'll just keep peeling away. The whole trick is to shift your body weight, not push your arms. I don't think we're getting flat there, but I can still feel a little bounce. So we'll, I just like to stop, make sure, see where we're at. But we're getting beautiful cuts. That wood's gorgeous. It's a shame we're going to probably have to ebonize it. Still have this in here, but we're going to be through that here pretty quick as well. So I'll go ahead and lower my tool rest a little bit. Move it back in closer now that we're rounder. We should be able to catch that in a couple of passes. So all I did there was clean up the other end so I have a nice flat surface. That still feels something in there. We're almost through that part there, which will end up being part of our final taper, because this will be the thick end up here and the narrow end down here. Yeah, that's how I'm still planning to do it. So let's, all we have to do is get rid of that. I'm going to go ahead and start on the taper so we don't waste any more material up on the other end. We're almost ready to mark this one up. Oh, just a wee bit. Got some different, pretty grain here though. Yeah, we're still having a little bit of flat there. One more pass. Famous last words, right? Okay. Now that should have us in a nice spot. This is a little knot here. Still have a little of that punky rod up here, but remember we're cutting a tenon into that. And this is nice all the way down to the bottom. So the next thing we're going to want to do is mark off, and we'll get out some calipers for this, but we're going to mark off our bottom diameter down here first. We're going to go ahead and establish that almost like we're peeling back a tenon. So we'll start there, and then we'll establish our diameter up here for this part after we measure out the distance from our diameter up there. We'll leave a little extra length here so we can trim that on site to make sure it levels out with the rest of them. I'm sure that they're all slightly different heights and worn like this. You're going to see that. You know, when something's worn, we want to make sure that we have a little extra material on this end that we can adjust in the field when we're fixing the furniture itself. So let's go ahead and start out by getting our 3/4 inch down here. So I'll go ahead and set a caliper for that. And we have our 2 inches up here, which we'll also set. And I'll probably start that off with a wider parting tool. So let me get that set up and I'll be right back. So one of the ways that I do this when I'm setting up my tools, I want to make sure you can see me here, is I will get out a caliper and I'll adjust it out to my depth here, or my diameter. So if I know I can pass through pretty comfortably, I'll back it up just a teeny bit from there so we have plenty of room for sanding or any kind of changes we need. So there's our top, and I have a second set here that'll adjust for our bottom. And these are the spring-loaded type. So just so we make sure that we're staying with everything. So we'll set our bottom to this caliper here, and the other caliper will go ahead and be our top. And I will start by establishing our bottom first, and I'm just going to use a peeling cut to do that. So once we get close, I'll grab this other caliper, which I'll hang right here for now. And I'll go ahead and zoom you guys in so you can get a little better view. Okay, here we go. Slowly lift your handle. Let it do a peeling cut. Well, we know that's still too big, but I'm going to go ahead and put lower my tool rest a bit. Push it in a little bit closer. Pull that down a little bit. And I can tell by eye that it's too big, but still it's okay to... Now, I don't like to do this while it's spinning. I know a lot of guys do. You can see where we're at here. If we go to the edge, you can see we still have about 1/4 of the diameter here to get down to our base size. Almost just a little bit wider than our actual live center there. Okay, we are very, very close. So enough there that I probably shouldn't take more, but I'm going to anyways, just so we get a nice perfect match. Okay, I can actually force it over now, so we are in there. There's our first diameter. Now up here, we're going to go ahead and go with a parting tool. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and use a parting tool on this other end up here. I have a nice wide parting tool. So it's an old mifer, looks like this here. So I'm going to go ahead and take that in there and get a little wide so we still have enough room for our tenon on top. Because on this part, remember, we have this tenon to deal with that we're going to try to create. It's offset, and this part here was the widest part. This is our 2 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and leave as wide as I can out there, so when I cut my tenon, I can adjust it appropriately for the furniture. You can tell it's not a super tight deal there. And it's put into the part, so it would have been just as easy to glue this on or put a peg in the middle, but this is the way that furniture was originally built. So I'll go ahead now and establish this diameter here, which is just under 2 inches. I should get out my pencil and get out my ruler so we know that we're leaving enough material here. Because if you recall, from our post down to this very top part up here, we measured this out at just under 4 1/4. It's still, still right in there. So we want to leave a little extra material there. And then come up here, kind of mark off, this is height of our unit. Here's where the tenon currently is. So let me go ahead and spin those things up real quick. Just so it's super clear what we're doing. So this right here, this line, I'll make it a little darker. That is the top diameter we want, which is 2 inches. This is how tall our tenon is right now. So we have all this extra material over here that we can work with. And we only measured about halfway here, so it'll give us another 1/8 of an inch on the other end when it comes time to it. So to keep our tenon, which right here, this is our tenon, we want to be working on this side of our blank. So we need to establish that top diameter here, and then all we have to do is taper those two together for our final thing. And for that, I'll probably use mostly a spindle gouge to do that, just a little easier. But let's go ahead and establish our inside 2-inch diameter now. Man, I do love the way cherry smells. Okay, we got quite a ways to go here, but I just want to keep stopping, make sure I don't overshoot it. Okay, that's wide enough for our tenon. So now we just got to get our go inside of that dimension now. Perfect. Okay, so we have established there, we have enough room for our tenon. We've established this section here. So now all we have to do is do our taper. And it'll be real easy for me to go ahead and pull some of that material off now while I have the skew out, just to get down to that diameter. We know that nothing down here is going to be wider than that, so it's easy to just hog that material away. Use a peeling cut. Okay, it's time for me to switch over to the larger spindle gouge. I'm going to start out with a, I think this one is a full 5/8. It never says on the crown ones, but it could be, it's over 1/2 inch anyway. So we'll go in and start peeling away there. Doing it here, getting the taper, lay them side by side there, and you can actually see where the taper is about to line up here as we get that together. So we're getting our taper nice. Nice, there's perfect. Now let's make sure we got our tenon just right. And remember, we left our little extra meat on the foot down there. So we're going to have this about 1/8 inch extra here for them to adjust to level it off. They can sand that. It's the right diameter all the way to the end right here. And then we have our shoulder up here, and all we're gonna have to do is sand this down nice, take this over to the bandsaw, mark up exactly where this tenon is, how wide it is, and then we'll make our cuts that way. So first, I really can't make any other cuts on the lathe because of this little, it's about a 1/16 inch overlap on both sides. So I'm gonna go ahead and sand, and we're not going to put any polish on this. We're going to stain it later. So we want to make sure that we have the right stain available. And then I have to just kind of revalidate. I've got a nice flat there, so we know that our size is correct. We pull it into the edge there, just to give you an idea. Edge to edge, we're almost right to the edge. So I might go ahead and taper that all the way down and make it identical. Not what my intention was, but I think that's the way to make this look the best. And I can't always stretch it out a little bit going this direction because we have our tenon material, but we'll leave it only about a 1/16 for them. Wasn't my intention. Okay, I'm gonna set up my dust collector and I'll be right back. Okay, just like normal, we won't do too much sanding on camera, but let's go ahead and get her started. And that should be good for us to go ahead and put some stain on. Make it dark after I go ahead and hack that tenon up. So we'll take this off now. We'll go mark that up, and I'll show you how I'm gonna plan on doing that. It's worked in the past. Hopefully it'll work today. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go over and mark that up, but now you can see we've got foot 1 and foot 2. Same taper, same look, a little teeny bit longer, And now we're going to add that tenon in up there. So all we have to do is mark that up after we do some measurements, take it over to the bandsaw, and get on it. Okay, there it is. Got one replica antique foot, turned out of cherry, and then carved up the tenon to match as close as we could get them there. Looks pretty good to me. So we'll get that off to the client and see if they have any adjustments or fits they need. I went ahead and trimmed it down, so we're just about a 64th longer than the original. So they'll have time to, or maybe as much as a 60, about a 64th, maybe a 32nd longer. They can sand it off and get it perfectly level there. But all in all, pretty easy project. Sorry I didn't film the tenon making. There's so many guys out there that are better at that than I am. Check out Ian Curtis is a great example of somebody who really knows how to use hand tools. As you can see, I've got plenty of saw marks and divots and stuff like that, but it's going to go up inside the piece, so I think we're going to be okay. So that's it for today, man. I hope you enjoyed that quick little tutorial on how to replicate an old antique part. Might be something you could do in your community to raise a little money, or at least get people interested in your craft. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. It sure helps me out, and I do appreciate it. Get out there and turn something.